Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to another edition of Scoreboard here on ACTN. It's always a pleasure to be in your company every Tuesday evening between the hours of 8 and 9, where we bring something to you that's relevant in sport in Trinidad and Tobago. Today we're going to be talking football, and we have a very special guest. But before we do, I want to introduce to you my co-host for this evening, Solange Guzman. Solange, it's a pleasure and welcome once again to Scoreboard.
Thank you, the pleasure is mine. You know, I love to be on your company and I love to be here in Smoky and Bounties.
And as I said, we're talking football, and today we're going to be talking to a foreigner, but basically a Trinidadian who has done a lot for football and who has a lot to offer Trinidad and Tobago football. And here's the reason why I took the opportunity to ask him to do this interview, because we need to know the talent we have in this country. We need to know how underutilized talent is in Trinidad and Tobago. And for some reason, you know, we get the impression that when foreigners come into the country and they offer to help, we feel threatened, the locals feel threatened. And I feel that that's one of the reasons why we have not seen this gentleman in the forefront of football. But anyway, let me take this opportunity to introduce him. You have seen him during our World Cup coverage, but now you're going to hear much more about the individual. James Baird. James, it's a pleasure.
It's my pleasure to be
Welcome
here.
to Scoreboard.
Thank you.
As I said in the opening, we feel threatened at times when foreigners come into our country that can offer something to football. Football right now in Trinidad and Tobago, it's a dying sport. People will argue, people will say differently. But before we get into, I know Solange have a lot of questions for you. But what do you think is our, before we talk about your career itself, what do you think our major problem in Trinidad and Tobago football?
Well, I think firstly I'd like to say that Trinidad in general has an abundance of talent. I mean, and I think that's one thing that it's underrated because of probably maybe the discipline side of the game. But Trinidad has so much talent, but it's just nurturing that talent and getting it to the level that can compete with, obviously, regionally and then worldwide. But I think they do have people here to do it. Like you say, sometimes it's getting the right people, but I think, as I say, it's just knowing how to do it, using the right people, and as I say, bringing everybody together. And I think that's something that, if that happens in Trinidad, Trinidad will be #1 in the Caribbean, and then can take it back to the levels of, for example, making it to the World Cup like 2006. So it's attainable, but it needs a little work.
Do you think that the locals are threatened when a foreign person comes into the country and maybe expose them for their shortcomings or things like that?
Well, I think in any society in the world, people get threatened when somebody different comes in, because generally they don't maybe know about that person, or they feel that maybe this person's coming in to take their job. So they don't see it as maybe a helping hand, but it's usually in the contrary. So for example, myself being here, I want to help boost Trinidad. I want Trinidad, I mean, I speak with pride when I talk people away about me being here in Trinidad. I love the country, I love the people, and I think it takes that bit of getting to know the person for you to understand that, you know, that's why they're here. They're not here to take anything away from us. They're not here to take your money. They're here to just boost the country, and I think that is a key for myself. So yeah.
For how long you have been in Trinidad now?
I've been here on and off for 10 years, since late 2007, early 2008 I've been here, yeah.
Okay, we have a lot in common, because earlier on you mentioned that we are going to interview James Baird, which is a foreigner, but I'm also a foreigner. So for the first time in my life I will get to say this, well, James Baird is a foreign national. Normally I am being told that Solange, you are a foreign national. And I can relate with you because most of you know that I come from badminton, and I think that in every sport, any foreigner encounters that number of issues. But I think that we must never give up, because at the end of the day, we are not here to take no one position, but to improve sports, right? James has a wealth of knowledge. He has been very fortunate to be all around the world. He has been exposed to different levels of football. And I think that when given the opportunity, it will be like a strong asset to the Football Federation. So James, have you ever been approached by the Football Federation?
Well, a few years ago there was a chance to work along with him. It didn't pan out because of various reasons, but it's one thing that I've always been very passionate about. As I say, I love the country. I would love to do it. But Trinidad, I mean, don't get me wrong, Trinidad does have a lot of good people there, but it's something that I would love to get involved in at some point or another.
Yeah, we share like the same passion, because I always believe that Trinidad has a lot of potential, and when they manage to have the right human resources in the right places, Trinidad could be the leading country in the Caribbean. Based on that concept, I decided to create my own sports academy, that we will talk about that, later on in the future. But James, do you have your own sports academy, a club or something?
Well, I had my own, I had two actual academies in the past. I don't have them going at the moment, but I have a kids show which we will touch on a little bit later that I want to get going, which will coincide with another academy too. But I think things have to be done at the right time, and that's why I took a little time out. I have a son, so I wanted to spend some time with him, So I think now is the time to strike while the iron's hot, as they say. And I think because of the way Trinidad's went in terms of football, it's the right time to try and educate, the younger ones to bring up the standard again.
But for how long you have been involved in football?
Wow. I've been involved as a professional for 20 years.
Wow.
But besides that, because I played my first professional game at 15. So I'm now 35, so that's my 20 years. But before that, I probably played from around 5 or 6. Competitively, probably from around 7. But yeah, so probably from about 5. And as people know, in the UK and in Scotland in particular, football is massive.
Yeah.
With the exception of Maria's rugby, obviously we know Maria. Rugby is massive as well, but football is definitely the
Hi, Maria.
Hi, Maria.
Hi, Maria.
Yeah.
So, in how many teams do you play abroad?
I read an article recently which said 19. I can't
19?
remember the actual number, but I think if the article is correct, I would have to go back and count all the teams
from each 15.
But that's 19 pro or semi-pro clubs.
Okay.
There would have been at least another 5 or 6 probably amateurs, so you're talking maybe 25, 26 probably.
So, excuse me, what got you involved in football?
Well, as a youngster, you get involved in all sports, So at one point I was swimming for my county, I was playing golf, I was playing badminton, basketball at school, a whole heap of sports. It came down to the time that I had to decide what I wanted to pursue, and I think at the time I chose football with a little help from my father, but
So your dad was involved in football?
He wasn't involved in football, he liked watching myself and my brother. And I think, as I say, because football is the main sport, and really if you want a career in sports, it's the main one. Even though they have rugby, it's not fully pro necessarily. Football is the one you would make a career out of in a sense. So I chose that, although I did want to be a fireman when I was younger. That was my main goal. I didn't do that, and I came into football, as I say, but I came into football because I enjoyed doing it. It wasn't because really I said, well, I am going to be a professional.
Yeah.
I came into it, I enjoyed playing it. I was an outfield player at the start. I got the chance to go in goals because somebody got injured, and then it just went from there.
Is there any one person that you said you feel will be what influenced you into really getting into the football?
Well, at the start, my father, obviously, and my uncle, who they had a team at the time. We were in a sense the rejects. We were not even the main team, They put the team together just so we could, enjoy playing. And then, ironically, the rejects went to become the A team. We went higher than the rest of the guys. So, my uncle and my father, but then the Scotland goalkeeper Henry Smith, which maybe not a lot of people over here would know him, but he was the Scotland #1 for years. He kind of took me under his wing very early on, and he battered it into me, all the rigmarole of being a goalkeeper, what I had to do. He used to tell me, for example, no girls at all, training comes first, focus. And I stuck with him, and I have a lot to give him credit for. He helped me a lot, and I probably wouldn't be any of the places, I wouldn't be here now if it was not for him. So.
Now, you said you used to play outside and you went into the goalkeeping aspect of football. What made you stay in that position and not continue, playing on the outside?
I mean, I love football in general, so I mean, it could have been that I stayed outfield. I think I was better in goals, but I loved the pressure of it. I loved the pressure of being the last line of defence. I loved being the leader from the back, kind of like, in a sense, being like a military general. You know, you're commanding your troops. I like that side of thing. And then the buzz I got from making a save. I mean, you could be a striker and score goals, but that buzz of making a save, an important save as well, to me, was something that I never got as an outfield player. So a combination of all those things.
Which position do you play?
Goalkeeper.
Goalkeeper, okay. Well, we know that football is a sport that requires a lot of physical fitness. You mentioned that you play professionally, so I want to know a little bit more about your training. How intense your training was?
Well, even now, obviously I'm now 35, it's hard to keep up that level of intensity, but when I was playing, for example, in my prime, you maybe training 3, sometimes 4 times a day.
4 times a day?
You're also in the gym. You're also, I mean, when I was younger, you didn't have to look at your diet so much because your metabolism was fast. But intake of water, these kind of things, the right proteins obviously helped. But training was a key, and if you did not train that amount of times, you were never going to be the best, or you were never going to compete with the rest of the guys. So it was hard going, you had to sacrifice a lot. And because I played from an early age at 15, I was still at school actually when I was a professional. So it was very difficult for me because I had to, in a sense, give up a few friendships, you know, because of, you know, training. At one point I was training with 6 different professional teams in Scotland. I was going one night at Hibs, one night at Hearts, one night at Livingston, one night at Dundee United. So it took a lot. It took a lot of mental preparation too. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't be where I am now if it was not for that.
No, I'm glad you brought up. I'm glad Suranj asked you that question, because we see in our local football and our local sports, sometimes we go to train, and we train, we might go to the gym in the morning, and in the evening we might go on the field for an hour and a half. But yet still we want to reach the professional level. Do you see that as a no-no in the sense of our mentality? Because you've been around Trinidad football and you've seen how we train. Do you think that is one of our major issues? That's why we perform the way we are?
I would say yes to an extent, but I think a lot of it comes down to a few things. Funding, for example, when you're playing away as a professional, you are getting compensated. I mean, you're not making, everybody thinks a professional makes millions. There's 90% of professional athletes that don't make those millions, you know? So you will be compensated. Here, I don't think they get that compensation enough to be a full professional, because they have families to provide for. But I think as well, a few things. Turning up to training on time. If you don't turn up to training on time away, you will not get to train. That's one thing. So you have to have that discipline. 2, you can't just train once a day to be a real professional. You have to be, as I say, looking at your diet, training a few times a day. At the end of the day, it's like any job. If you're a plumber and you're not practicing being a plumber, you can't be the best at your trade and you will not be used. So to be a footballer, it's the same thing. You need to be working on your skill day in, day out, beating at it, working at it, and by doing that, you then get to where you want to be in your career.
As you sit here, are there any matches that you have played that strikes you, that is there in the memory as one of your maybe great achievements?
There's a lot of them. I think recently, for example, my last game I actually played, which I don't know if it will be my last game, which I played in Iceland.
Because you haven't retired,
I'm
right?
not retired officially, no, so I played that, I think it was September, October last year. So it's been a little bit of time, but I saved a penalty, I had an excellent game. We ended up losing the game 4-2, but because that could be my last game in a sense, that sticks by me. But as a player, I was involved in Central when they got the treble. Didn't play much, and then at Alloa in Scotland, we won consecutive promotions. Huge thing. And then I played many games with various teams. I mean, in Faroe Islands, for example, a country that not a lot of people know about, we won the league, and I was coach of the women's team, and I helped them win promotion too. So to me, because it been a double entendre in terms of winning as a player and as a coach, and I loved that. I loved the country, I loved the people there, and I was supposed to go back the year later, but the club had financial issues. So there's a whole host of matches I played, especially in Faroe Islands, but there was one against our rivals that We drew 0-0 with them, and I think I had 26 saves in the game. And it always sticks by me. I can picture every save actually in that game. So a lot of teams, a lot of memories, and that, as I say, that's just a little percentage of the 20-year career. So,
you know, I know that in every sport, you know, life doesn't always be, as we say locally, a bed of roses. There are challenges, there are different obstacles that you have to face. Looking back now at the 20-odd years that you have played, what are some of your major challenges that you have to face, barriers that you have to break down in order to be where you are today?
Well, my biggest barrier is my height. As a goalkeeper, I am on paper 5'10", which, I mean, in England they have a rule that they won't take MD unless they're 6 foot. So that was very difficult, and that's probably why I had to go abroad at first. But every time I went to a team, I would always prove them wrong. And that's one thing I've said as a player, set yourself goals, short-term goals, long-term goals, and continue to work at them. And whenever I did that, I always, as I say, I got to my goal and surpassed it. And I did it at every club. And when I talk to coaches now, like I had a conversation with a coach here who said to me, James, when I first saw you, I was thinking, no, not going to work. I came, I was third choice, and I ended up being, at the end of the season, having save of the year, being #1, and he never expected it. And that's what I'm saying, set goals, and eventually they will be broken. So that's one side of thing. The other thing that is probably my biggest disappointment to an extent, I'm a Rangers supporter being from Scotland. I had the chance to sign for Celtic at one point. I think I was maybe 17. I turned it down. Celtic, probably the biggest club in Scotland at the moment, and I did not go because of my family background, my, at the time, religious background, a whole bunch of things. I did not take the contract, and it probably would have been a whole different James sitting here now. But I believe we are where we are because of the mistakes and the choices we make. And I probably would not have maybe lasted in my sport if it was not for them. So
we need to take a break. When we come back, I think Solange have some more questions to throw at you.
No
Viewers,
problem.
remember this is Scoreboard on ACTN. We're on the Avenue. We're talking to James Baird, and we'll be right back after the short break.
Welcome everyone to another edition of Football 101.
Half season and things are looking gloomy for Madrid.
Is a Chelsea fan.
I only know one side of Manchester and it's red. I don't know about any blue side.
Yes, I'm an Arsenal fan. That's very unfortunate.
I love you, Messi.
Mike want to say thanks for... No!
What are you gonna do?
We bring the feel directly to your home.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to another edition of Scoreboard here on ACT, and it's always a pleasure to be in your company every Tuesday evening between the hours of 8 and 9.
Welcome back to Scoreboard. We are on the Avenue in Smoky and Bounty, and we are talking with James Baird. So James, before you mentioned that you played many matches abroad, but have you played any match recently here in Trinidad?
I've not. As I say, I came back in the country, I think, December, January time. I had a little spell at Central FC as a player coach there.
But if you go back a little bit, you had a stint with Tobago.
I had, well, actually, yeah, that was when I first came here, 2007-8.
Yeah.
I was there for a season, great year, loved it. But as I say, that was close to 10 years ago now, you know?
Yeah.
But as I say, more recently, I was with Central for maybe 6 weeks to 2 months. Not there anymore because of, I think because of the state of football in Trinidad financially is very difficult for a lot of teams. But I'm delighted that they went and won the First Citizens Cup, and obviously well done to Stern and the guys. They did a good job. So, but a good club. But I think corporate Trinidad needs to get involved in football because there is no funding and it's very difficult for whether it's myself or other players or coaches. It's very difficult for them. So to answer your question, no. But I trained. I mean, I was actually in great shape. Probably up until just before the World Cup because of the training I was doing there, yeah.
Besides the financial situation, because every sport most likely encounters that, and football is one of those privileged sports that are fortunate enough to get some assistance from the government. But what else do you think could be done to improve the standards of football in the country?
Well, I think one of my biggest concerns was always here that no team owns any grounds or stadiums. And this is the way that teams away make their money, because they have gate receipts. Now they have community grounds, but you can't stop people coming into community grounds because you want this support. So I think if clubs have a ground they can use that's theirs is one thing. Obviously marketing and memorabilia and shirts and all those kind of things help funding the team as well. Having the right staff as well is a big thing. Some of them do. I mean, there's some W Connection have been doing it for years. Central have a good staff there. I don't know about the other ones. And having qualifications with each staff member. So I know they've been running a lot of Dutch courses here in Trinidad, but it needs to be a continual thing, you know. You do the C license, you need to do the B license, you need to do the A license. So a whole bunch of things from qualifications to stadia, and even just to support as well. The average Trinidadian, I mean, yes, they can switch on the TV and watch Manchester United, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Juventus now that Ronaldo's there, but come and support local football as well, as they need to do with local sports.
But do you think that the football that we play right now, out of the communities, they cannot generate a community support base? Because, for instance, let's take Defence Force and Police, for instance. What community do they represent? And on top of that, the general public already don't like police. Right? So that makes it even worse now for me to go and sit down and watch a police team. But what I'm trying to get at is that if you need that support, who do I go to support? I don't know anybody playing police. Okay, we have Club Sando. Club Sando, originally from San Fernando, but now they are based in somewhere in Central, right? So you have moved away from your core base, yes sir? So do you see taking back playing football to the communities and getting the members of the team involved in projects in the communities so the young people or people in general could identify with, okay, I know Plaza, I know this one, you've seen them.
Yeah, but I think that all the sports in this country share that common goal, you know, the lack of finances. But if somehow we manage to create an environment with economic benefits to our athletes, then you can have, you know, a solid system implemented on the grassroots level. Because as it is now, football and cricket are the leading sports in the country. But for example, when you look at football, yes, everybody knows the international players, but nobody knows the local players. And those who are talented to be in the national team, they say, but what is in it for me here? I mean, I have no form of income. I have a family to see about, you know, and what is in it for me? Trinidad is a very small country. It's only a population of 1.3 million. To get sponsors from abroad is very challenging, right? And I think that if corporate Trinidad do not come, you know, but again, when corporate Trinidad comes involved, they will say, but what is in it for me? So it is a problem where everybody have to come together, like Ministry of Sports, Sport Company of the Sports Commission, UTT, UV, you know, all these big entities that are in charge of administering a sport at all different levels, and come with a plan, you know, where you can offer something to all the participants. You know, when you are here, for example, in cricket, you can say, well, in 10 years from now, you may be as good as Brian Lara. You know, they have someone to look after. But what is there somebody like that in football?
Well, one of the things I would say is, from what George said, I mean, he mentioned, I'll give you an example, police at first, okay? Yes, they may not have a community, but how many police officers are in Trinidad? I'm just saying, so for example, let's say there is 10,000 police officers. Those 10,000 police officers have 5 family members each. You've got 50,000 now, right? So my point is, there is always a fan base, no matter where you're from, no matter what line of work you're in, no matter what you're in. Another example is, they say that they don't have support at games. Give out 10,000 free tickets to schools. Let the schools come to the stadiums free to allow the stadiums to be filled.
You know, you can add to that point what you're saying there, James, because every Pro League team has an under 14, an under 16, an under 17, I think they're supposed to have a reserve team. Where are these players when their senior team is playing at a venue?
And the other thing I would say to that is, I mean, you've got the school side of thing. I mean, Trinidad, people will not come out in Trinidad unless there's an incentive, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, I think they've tried the whole party thing for a long time, have a party and have, you know, this one singing and people will come out. But I think that, to me, is dwindling out now, you know? If you get people involved in something, for example, they could have, they've done it 2 games in an evening, but make it a whole day thing, you know? So people come in the morning, they have a game in the morning, a game in the evening. You could even combine Super League and Pro League. They've never done it. You can all, I mean, there's so many ways you could do it. I think the Super League are doing a lot of good things this year. Not that I'm bashing the Pro League, because I mean, they are trying to start very soon, but the Super League have a lot of good ideas going on. But at the end of the day, people need to forget about this whole, this one's better than this one. At the end of the day, the only way Trinidad to work is to work together and do things together. And that is the only way the national team will start to function properly. And unless it's like the whole 2 hands to clap thing, unless you do that, nothing will work.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Just say tomorrow morning, Trinidad and Tobago awakes to the news that James Baird is the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association. A World Cup has just ended. We have to start to prepare for qualifying for the next World Cup. As president of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Federation, James, what is your first plan of action?
Well, my first plan of action would be going through everybody that's involved and making sure they're the right person for the job. Now, it's not saying that the people there are not the right people, it's just making sure that they have, you know, the right X's and ticks are correct, you know, in that place. Then you have to look at, for example, what events we have coming up. So, for example, it may not be that the senior men's team is the priority because we have an under-14s tournament coming up, so we have to focus on that first. But once you have the right people, then you can then start focusing on those things. At the end of the day, the senior men's team is the pinnacle. Then you have to identify, one thing I don't know if they have is, do they have scouts in Trinidad? In Trinidad, outside Trinidad, that are actually identifying players that can play for Trinidad. They may have it. And then going down the line, I mean, even to the extent, funding is not even the most important thing right at the beginning. Yes, it's important because you need money to go to tournaments, but at the end of the day, that money comes from FIFA and CONCACAF. But it's having the right people, having the right plan, and then execute it. And then the one thing I find personally, which brought the biggest results for the UK and for Scotland, is we had a thing called the YTS scheme. When guys came out of school, or were even still in school, they could go to a football club, the government paid them a small amount of money, it was £60 a month, which is 600 TT, sorry, a fortnight, so 1,200 TT a month. They were professional players, they got to train every day, they got to do their education as well. So when they finished, whether they made it the grade or not, they had an education, they had some funding, and they had a career perspective to go on to football or to go into something else. You set that up early, and from early age, 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s, all the way up, then you have a conveyor belt of talent going right through. If you have a plan like that, I mean, as I say, I'm not saying you don't have it, but I'm just saying that is what I would do.
Well, you have it right there. That is an excellent plan for your 100 days, right? So you have really, really some good material to work with. So, James, I know earlier on you mentioned about all the sacrifices that you made. You know, you have to give up in some of your friends, some of your family situations, and you know. But this is a funny question, and you know, I'm kind of funny. Do you have a girlfriend?
Oh, I'm married, so yes.
No, back then. Do you have a girlfriend?
Back then, I was not supposed to have girlfriends.
Oh, is that a rule there when you're in the football?
A lot of the coaches, there used to be some sayings which I won't say on air, but they would drill into us, you know, about having girlfriends and how it basically took away from your mind
Focus
and on all those things. So I did, wasn't supposed to, and I think, to be honest, one thing out my whole life, I always had a girlfriend. That was one thing throughout my whole footballing career. But having time for those things was very difficult.
Yes.
I mean, I remember when I was 14, 15, I used to always get complaints from those girlfriends, you know, you're playing football all the time, that's all you have time for.
But isn't that how a professional athlete needs to operate? You need to set your priorities right.
Yeah, your priorities.
I agree, yes. I mean, and it's something, as you get older, it gets more and more difficult, especially, for example, if you have a child, if you get married, those things.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you chose to be an athlete, and I think there is a responsibility that comes with that. I mean, everybody thinks, as I say, of the the money you could earn, the cars, all the flash lifestyle, but at the end of the day, you have a responsibility to your sport, because that sport is helping you provide and helping you do all those things. And I think that's something the youngsters have to realise, that it's not just a glam. You have a responsibility to whatever it is you choose to do, whether you become a fireman or a footballer, whether you become a badminton professional or a rugby player. You have to give that dedication, and it's not 100%, it's 110%. You have to go over and above what you would do.
Yeah.
And sometimes you may get 4 hours sleep, sometimes you may get 1 hour sleep, but at the end of the day, you're doing what you want to do, and you're being paid for it. So.
No, you are a coach, you are a goalkeeper. Let's dissect now Trinidad and Tobago football in the sense of our goalkeeping part of the game. We had in the past goalkeepers like Lincoln Phillip, Kelvin Barclay, Earl Carter, and Islam. You are here long enough now to see the new breed of goalkeepers, the type of goals we concede, you know. If you have to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of our goalkeepers, let's start first of all with the strengths of our goalkeepers. In what areas you see that we have that strength, and in what area we are weak, and that's the area that we need to pay particular attention to.
So goalkeepers wise, I mean, Trinidad has, I'll say a few at the moment. I mean, it's not a huge pool. It used to be bigger that were quality goalkeepers.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a chance. I worked with Jan, Michael Williams, a couple of years ago. Good friend of mine, good goalkeeper. There's a few young guys as well that have a lot of potential, but I think a lot of it comes down to the right coaching.
Yeah.
Now, again, I'm not saying they don't have the right coaches here, but they may not be with their particular clubs, you know?
What I see, a lot of teams, we have coaches, but we don't have actually goalkeeper coaches. We have one main coach that does everything.
Well, I think sometimes you will see a coaching course come available and everybody will run and do it, a goalkeeping coaching course. But I think, personally, I'm a believer of, I mean, there is a few exceptions of coaches who never played to a high level that coached, but I think you have to have been in it to an extent. You know, you have to have experienced the pressures. May not necessarily have to be an international player, but you have to have known what it takes to be at the top of your game, you know? Yeah. There may not be enough coaches probably with that level, and I think that is a huge, I mean, anybody can go kick a ball towards a goalkeeper and show them a little movement, but when it comes down to it, can you improve them over a season? Can you improve them over a month? Can you show them what they did wrong? And sometimes the problem is, for example, when I was working with Jan, as I say, who's a good friend of mine, Jan's a great goalkeeper. I was a good goalkeeper, but sometimes probably, I mean, Jan was a bigger goalkeeper in level to me. So when I first started working with him, there was a bit of naivety in the sense that I didn't want to be telling Jan too many criticisms, because he could then say, well, I played at a higher level you to an extent.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you develop that bond, coach and player, you
yeah.
can then show him, well, Jan, I think that you can work on this. So that's just me using Jan as an example. But Jan is a phenomenal goalkeeper in terms of work rate, and he comes out with that eye of the tiger, and that's one thing I used to enjoy working with him a lot. Javin Sample as well, young guy who I worked with, same thing, they used to come out. But again, I think you have to know the players in a sense intimately in terms of as a coach to be able to push them to the top end of their game. And I think, as I say, there's maybe not enough of coaches like that. I mean, I see myself as not just a goalkeeping coach, for example. I have coached many teams as a head coach as well, and it's the same thing. If you do not know your players, you do not get to know their strengths and weaknesses, you can't push them ahead, you know? And that's something that I think probably lacks. And I think in Trinidad too, a lot of people come out of, for example, intercall football, and they think they're a star. And people may hate me for saying that, but at the end of the day, there's a huge gap between the levels of football.
Because we have seen recently that guys who recently played in the college league, when they step up to the higher level, they're not performing, because Lawrence took some of the guys in some practice games, and I saw the games, and they were just, you know, they were just normal. So sometimes before we learn the game properly, we already see ourselves up there, and I think that is our problem. Because only this week I was drawing attention to a situation in 1989 when we nearly qualified for the World Cup. We had a total local bunch of guys under Gally Cummins, right? And when we qualified for 2006. Then we had the guys who went abroad, the Hislops, all the stars who went and learned their trade at a higher level. But if you look at the current bunch of local guys we have presently, I mean, I could be crucified for what I'm saying, but I'm yet to see these guys to the level of the local guys in '89, right? But we need to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk to you about, the show that you want to bring on board, but I also want to talk to you about where, at what age do we really start to develop footballers to take them from the under 17, under 15s, the under 17s, the under 20s, straight into the senior level. So whatever they learn at the tender age, they will take that through. So any coach that comes on board don't have to start teaching all over. Viewers, we're on the avenue. This is Scoreboard. We'll be right back after this short break.
We, from those encounters together, and this was a North-South game to open the season.
So the team might be playing well, as we always say with Trinidad and Tobago.
Futsal did that great for me.
Okay, hey everybody. Welcome to another edition of Field of Dreams on ACTN. My name is Steve David. I'm your host.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to another edition of Scoreboard here on ACT, and it's always a pleasure to be in your company every Tuesday evening between the hours of 8 and 9. Welcome back, viewers. Welcome back to ACT, and this is Scoreboard here on the Avenue, and we're talking with an international footballer now residing in Trinidad and Tobago, James Baird. James, before the break, we talk a lot about Trinidad and Tobago football, and one of my concerns is that at what age do we really start to prepare? I'm not going to say under 15 or under 17 team. What age do we start to really prepare a senior footballer?
Well, I would say a senior footballer, or the process of a senior football player, probably for me would be around 11 or 12. It could even be earlier in the sense that, I'll give an example. I always ask young guys when I'm talking to them, do you watch football? And some of them will say no, they want to play video games, they want to do this and that. But to me, if you want to do something, you have to know about your given sport or your given topic, you know? So if you're not watching football at home and learning the positions, learning how your idol plays, the one you like plays, you're never going to do it. So it's probably even before then, from a parent's side of things, about getting a youngster involved if that's what they want to do. But from 11, 12, the coaching process, or even maybe a little before that, comes into place, because at the end of the day, if you don't have the right foundation, you're going to start to stumble when the higher you go up the line. And I think we've seen that with many national teams throughout the years.
We have been talking about athletes and how to develop athletes, but what is your opinion about the football coaches in Trinidad?
Well, I think coaches is something that I do not believe somebody can wake up tomorrow and say, I want to be a coach.
Right.
There has to be a thought process, there has to be training. Now, I'm not saying it necessarily has to be academically training. It could be they work under somebody for a period of time and they understand the game. But I think the way the world has gone, you need paperwork. So, for example, you have a UEFA B, C, A, all the licenses. And they've been trying to do that in Trinidad. I mean, they need to do a few more of the higher level ones to get to bring up the level, but they've been doing a decent enough job to get some of the coaches there. But I think for too long before that, anybody could coach. And I think that's something that they need to look at. I say not just Trinidad, worldwide. That it's like, for example, I was in Iceland recently, and they have, I can't remember the figure, 30,000 UEFA coaches. For the population, it's ridiculous. It's 10% or even more than that, I think. I can't remember. So and the government subsidises this. And this is something that the Trinidad government could do, not just with football, but all sports. There should be programs in place that, whether it's through UE, whether it's through whatever institution, that people can say, well, if I want to be a coach, let me start on this ladder. You can do it in Scotland, for example. You can go and you can start off level 1, level 2, level 3, UEFA C, B, A, and go up the line. And that's something that needs to be done, but it needs to be something that's a continual thing. It can't be you do it for 2 years and then you switch to the French way. You wait 2 more years, you go to the Brazilian way. It needs to be something that, and it also needs to be something that's Trinidadian.
Because we say our brand is soca, right? But what is our brand? What is soca? And we document it to know that this brand that we play on a constant level is this what we call soca or
One of my favourite movies was, I'll give you an example, the Jamaican bobsleigh movie. Many people have seen it. And there's a part in the movie that one of the guys, Nick Sanka, says that you know, we don't do things the Swiss way, and he says if we walk Jamaican, we talk Jamaican, we is Jamaican, you know. But the point's true. Things have to be done the Trini way, the same way the team plays. The team cannot come and play the same as the Spanish, the same as the French. There has to be that identity of being Trinidadian. So it has to be a combination of the coaching, the country, as a player and as a coach. And if you bring those things in, as I say, things will flow.
Yeah, I like when you say identity, because, you know, for what you have said, the system in Scotland and England is very similar to the system in Cuba. And I can't avoid saying that I have been interacting with many coaches in Trinidad, and there is always one thing that amazes me, is that the fact that they got a certificate or a degree in UWE on UTT, that they stop right there, you know. And to me, like, coaching is like being a doctor. You have to continuously doing research, you know, enhancing your knowledge and so on, because a sport is such a beautiful thing that it's changing every single day, especially now with technology. And I am of the opinion that to be a great coach doesn't have nothing to do with how much qualification do you have. You can have a PhD, but when it comes to train the child, you have no knowledge. You are book sense, but you don't have, you know, the sport sense that requires, you know, to bring that child up to the phases of the long-term athlete development program. As Trinidadians, well, I consider myself a Trinidadian, you too, because we have been here long enough. That is one of the things that I would like to see. I know it's changing very slowly, and there is a number of passionate coaches, dedicated coaches, but they are not being given the opportunity because they do not have qualification. Whereas there is a number of qualified coaches with certificates and degrees and so on in key positions that they do not really, they are not really passionate, they are not really, you know, into the sport because they want to see the sport develop. They're just there for some financial, you know, objective. And if we can just change that a little bit, the sport could be here a lot better, because there is a number of talented athletes in Trinidad. The pool of talented athletes is huge, you won't believe. But there is a serious lack of well-educated coaches that could plan, that they could have a vision for themselves and the sports. Now there is one thing, you come and coach today, tomorrow for 1 month, and then after that you think too highly of yourself. Then you don't want to come down to help somebody else. You don't want to share your knowledge, right? You don't want to go and get no workshop. You don't want to participate in no forum because you think that, well, I already know this and I do not need to know nothing else. And there is another situation where you have people with a wealth of knowledge, like James here, and you feel intimidated when James comes to share his ideas with you, to give you some sort of advice. And at the end of the day, it is going to be for your own well-being. And not only for you, for the country, for the players that you coach. And football is a game that no one can say, well, I won the match. It's a team thing, and sport itself is like a team. It's like a team. So now we are very good at liming and coming together and have a good time. It's been proven. We did that right here in Smoky and Bounty.
For the finals.
For the finals, right? So everyone came together. Everybody knew about all the top players. Everybody knew about the scores, about the best teams, and so on. Everybody knew everything. Even though how much money they make, I was amazing. Now you ask them about the local players, nobody knows. You ask them about the local coaches, nobody knows. You ask them about community programs, no one knows. And sport is everybody's business, because you know the happiness that sport brings to you. It was proven in the World Cup, you know. And in this event, it's like crime gets lower, all the children are there behind the screen, some like almost there, some wishing to be there, others like dreaming to be there someday, and others, you know, in the way preparing themselves to get there. But I think that coaches, they play a very, very important role, and they have to invest the best of themselves, you know, to improve as a coach and as a person, and to help, you know, further in the sport.
No, James, well said, Sula. That was a brilliant speech there. Now, I want to make it clear that we're going to talk about something now, and it's going to be said here on ACTN. So, if in case we see it anywhere else and anybody tries to do it, we know exactly where it started. You have an idea, a vision, and a passion to start a show like no other show in Trinidad and Tobago. Tell us about this kids. I don't know if I should call it a football coaching show. What actually is the name of this show, and how did the idea all come together?
Well, the name of the show, I don't know yet. That's right. I'm still in the process of thinking of something catchy. But basically, the show came about through a conversation I had, and I was going to open an academy again, which I had in the past. And I was thinking, one of the biggest concerns I have is the fortunate always get to go to the academy, but what happens to the ones that can't? There's a lot of areas in Trinidad
from the rural areas
who don't have the funds, and it may not even be funds. It may be their parents are working, they can't be there, so it's not just funds. So I said, how can I cover the whole spectrum? So I was talking with my wife, and we were talking about it, and we said, well, why not do a show for kids that will give them the chance, let's say for example, on a Saturday morning to tune in, to learn a bit about the sport, but also to learn drills they can do in their own house, in their own garden, with their parents, that will help them learn the game, and then, like we said earlier, progress onto that ladder to get into the game, you know? So that's what the show will be. We will combine it with a few things. For example, I mean, at the moment it's in the process of putting it together. Yeah. But it will have, for example, a news segment for kids. It will have showing them how to do certain skills. It will have an interactive part. It will have competitions. So, and it will be a process of every week the show will be on. So every Saturday morning the kids can get in front of the TV, watch the show, learn about it. They can talk to their friends at school. They can go online and shoot us a question and say, well, I like this. Tell me about this, or tell me about you, or tell me whatever it may be. We will answer those questions. So it's something to get them interested in the game, but also to help them learn the sport too. So I think it's something that will do well here.
Very interesting, and I know that you already have it copyright. So anybody looking there who's trying to steal the idea, forget it. It's already documented. So our lawyers will be talking to your lawyers anytime we see it anywhere. James, what has really kept you, you know, in the sport of football? Because I know that you came to Trinidad, there were some challenges, we're not going to talk about that, but there were some things that an ordinary person would have turned their backs, right? But what has really kept you so dedicated with this passion for football?
Well, I think something that always stuck with me is the song Eye of the Tiger, which was in the Rocky movies when I was a boy. It used to talk about don't give up your passion for something that you think, you know, will be easy, you know? And it always stuck with me, that. And also the phrase back home, what's for you won't go past you, you know? Because there will be many hurdles in anybody's career, whether you're a banker, you're a footballer, whatever it may be. There will always be things that pop up that could make you drop out of the sport, and could make you, in a sense, look for easy money or easy ways of sustaining yourself. But at the end of the day, if you love something, you work at it, and you keep working at it. And I think that's one thing. The sport has been good to me. I have loved the sport, and I wanted to keep working at it. And I think it's kind of like everything. Once you do something over a period of time, it's hard not to do it. So there's been times, even recently, that I thought, well, you know, let me do this or let me do that, but you wake up the next day and you're like, no, I can't do anything else. That is, I mean, it's like people say to me, you're the football guy. And in a sense that's true, because there's no James without football, in a sense, you know? So I think it has to be in your heart, and once you have that passion in there, along with other things, I mean, Like I hear lots of motivational people talking about, you know, put God first in your life and all those things. Very important, very, very important. But I also think your passion has to be there, because if you don't have dreams, you cannot reach anywhere in life. But also, it's not just dreams. You have to put those dreams on paper and work at those dreams.
I know we need to take a break before we come back with Solange's motivational segment. But I just want to mention quickly, you mentioned the song Eye of the Tiger. And what is interesting is that I did a couple of interviews with our legend goalkeeper, Lincoln Phillips. And before he left the country, we did a couple interviews, and that was the song he wanted played. Because even before he left Trinidad and Tobago, we had plans to do on ACTN a goalkeeping coaching course. And the name of the program was supposed to be Eye of the Tiger. So it looks like Eye of the Tiger is associated with the goalkeepers.
Well, I think so, in the sense that you have to have that focusedness, and I suppose tigers jump, goalkeepers jump. There's a whole bunch of comparisons you can make, but I think for me, a very good friend of mine said to me recently that when you look at pictures of me playing football, there's a focusedness that's in your eyes, and to an extent a scariness that you give off. They don't see that when they see me generally, but when they see a football picture, they have that, and I think it probably is Eye of the Tiger, you know. And I think that's something, not just football though. I think all athletes, when they're in competition mode, and in that professional zone, it's there.
Well, James, again, we must say it was indeed a pleasure. We had some really enjoyable times here during the World Cup. I said it to Solange, and I said it to you too. I felt it's necessary to let Trinidad and Tobago know what we have and what you can offer. And it's not about you coming to Trinidad and Tobago to take charge or to belittle anybody. You are coming to give back to the sport, because at the end of the day, it's the sport of football that matters. Not who is the coach, not who, because when a team win the World Cup, you don't hear they say the coach win the World Cup. It's either France or Brazil. When we went to Trinidad and Tobago, nobody said Ben Hacker went to the World Cup. Trinidad and Tobago qualified for the World Cup under Ben Hacker. So it's never about the coach, it's about the team and the country. So I really want to thank you, and I know that I hope that people will see this and somebody will come forward, you know, and be willing to talk with you and get some ideas of what is needed to enhance football on the ground. Any final?
I am the first person in line to talk to James, because I want him to be a coach for the Solange Guzman Caribbean Sports Academy. I know he's talented, and I am looking for coaches to be part of this adventure. So James, we are about to talk business.
I look forward to it. I mean, one of the closing things I would like to say, like, it's been my pleasure with all of the shows we've done, but one thing I would like to leave with, I suppose, the athletes in the country is the name on the front of the shirt is way important than the name in the back. And somebody always told me that, because at the end of the day, you can be the best player in the world, but you'll always play for somebody. And also, it's ironic to me that that logo is where your heart is. So the sport is there, so make sure you're playing for it for the love of the game, not for the money, not for the name in the back, not for the cars, the girls, any of that. Play it for yourself and you will be successful.
So viewers, you heard it. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we go straight into Solange Guzman motivational course.
Welcome back to the Solange Guzman motivational segment. Today I want to talk to you about the topic of never give up. And I chose that topic deliberately with regards to the CSC Games. As we know, the CSC Games are going on right now, and I know for experience that there is a number of athletes who are watching the games from home or from other locations, but they are not there because they didn't make the team, or because they are not up to the standard of CSC Games, or because some challenge. And I want to tell you, don't give up. You have a dream in you, you have to believe in it. It's not going to be easy, there is going to be a lot of challenges. But beyond everything, you must believe in yourself and in your abilities to get there. Yes, today you're going to be watching the games behind the screen, Yes, we are dreaming of being in there, but there is many things that you can do while your moment reach. You can start training. It doesn't matter if you don't have the finances, if you don't have the right support, if you don't have the right people, if you do not have the right opportunities. It doesn't matter. You have to block all that negativity and concentrate on yourself. You have all what you need within you to get there. If you are a track and field athlete and you do not have a pitch, just go and run on the street, run in the bush, do something, right? But do not sit home waiting for someone to give you an opportunity. The opportunity is going to present itself. Remember, luck is preparation meeting the moment of opportunity, right? Oprah Winfrey, everybody knows Oprah Winfrey. She says that, and we know the potential and the reach of Oprah Winfrey. Now, I am telling you this based on experience. Most of you know that I am a Cuban athlete. I represented Cuba for many years. I was fortunate enough to get to the CSC game. I won 3 golds and 1 silver, but I didn't get there by coincidence. I was one of the athletes who was told that I was never reached to the national team because I could not meet the criteria. I was told that in front of the national badminton fraternity, but I believe in myself. And when the competition came around, I proved them wrong, and I proved myself right, and they have to put me in the team. And I train very hard, and that is what you need to do. If the coach tells you you have to do 100 sit-ups, you do 150. If you have to run for 30 minutes, you run for 45 minutes. Why? Because you have to run that race as hard as you can for yourself. You have to detach from all the distraction. You have to get away from what the other is seeing. That is not your business. Your business is to get yourself in the mental frame that you can get there. You can work with the resources that you have available. And one of the main resources that I'm sure you have is your mind. You can visualize yourself, you can see yourself there. You have all what you need within you to get there. So get moving, get yourself some books, get yourself some coaching, get yourself some equipment, invest in yourself, invest in your dream, but do not wait until someone gives you an opportunity, right? You create the opportunity for yourself because no one is going to believe ever in yourself more than you can believe in yourself. And trust me, it is going to be a challenge road, it is going to be painful, there is going to be a lot of defeat, a lot of negativity. Some family members will walk you out of your dream. Some people will say that you are not going to get there because you are not talented enough. That is why you have to believe in yourself. If you see it in your mind, you can conceive it. So I want you to promise me that you are not going to give up. This is a race, and I want you to run that race as fast as you can for yourself. Never look back and never give up. This is Solange Guzman. I see you again.
Well, viewers, what an inspirational, motivational bit of advice here. Again, we want to thank you for viewing us here on ACTN. This is Scoreboard. We were talking to the international footballer James Baird, who is now currently in Trinidad and is willing to give back. Again, if you miss any part of this program, there's a repeat on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Keep viewing ACTN. Remember, catch us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. with a repeat at 1 p.m. on Wednesday. Looking forward to catching you next week. See you then.